I'm man enough to admit when I was wrong. They went through with the strike. I was wrong. There's nothing we can do about it now. What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Actually Good Coffee podcast, the show where we talk about all things coffee related, all while drinking a cup of coffee. This is the second episode this week, technically. Part of the reason why I added that extra episode was because of the impending port labor strike that was going to be happening, which I assumed was not based off of my heavily researched information, but it turns out that I was wrong. But the point being that we sold 623 pounds of coffee last week in comparison to last year's 684 pounds of coffee, which is more. That's the second time that this has happened this year. I'm not that worried because a lot of my attention has been focused on other things, including the school community, the online coffee community that you can join now for free in the link in bio. It will not be free for long, but I implore anyone that is looking to get involved in the coffee industry or already is to join this. It is one to remember. But let's get into today's topic, which is sort of a part two on last week's episode, which has to do with the port labor strike between the International Longshoreman Association and the United States Maritime Alliance. I fell into a bit of a rabbit hole with this recent port strike, and I think the best way to start this off is just by playing you the most recent interview I found with the president of the ILA, Harold Daggett. He is the chief negotiator for the International Longshoremen Association. And I'm just going to play it so you guys can hear it for yourself.
But today's world, it's changing into the future. They're not making millions no more. They're making billions. And they're spending it fast as they make it. I want a piece of that for my men, because when they made their most money was during COVID. When my men had to go to work on those piers every single day, when everybody stayed home and went to work. Not my men. They died out there with the virus. We all got sick with the virus. We kept them going. From Canada to Maine to Texas, Great Lakes, Puerto Rico, now the Bahamas, everybody went to work during COVID. Nobody stayed home. Well, I want to be compensated for that. I'm not asking for the world. They know what I want. They know what I want. And if they don't, no, then I have to go into the street and we have to fight for what we rightfully deserve. These people today don't know what a strike is. Right. When my men hit the streets, from Maine to Texas, every single port will lock down. You know what's going to happen? I'll tell you. First week, be all over the news every night, boom, boom. Second week, guys who sell cars can't sell cars because the cars ain't coming in off the ships. They get laid off. Third week, malls start closing down. They can't get the goods from China. They can't sell clothes. They can't do this. Everything in the United States comes on a ship. They go out of business. Construction workers get laid off because the materials aren't coming in. The steel's not coming in. The lumber's not coming in. They lose their job. Everybody's hating the longshoremen now because now they realize how important our jobs are. Now I have the president screaming at me, I'm putting a Taft-Hartley on you. Go ahead. Taft-Hartley means I have to go back to work for 90 days. That's a cooling off period. Do you think when I go back for 90 days, those men are going to go to work on that pier? It's going to cost the companies money to pay their salaries. Well, they went from 30 moves an hour maybe to 8. They're going to be like this. Who's going to win here in the long run? You're better off sitting down and let's get a contract and let's move on with this world. And in today's world, I'll cripple you. I will cripple you. And you have no idea what that means. Nobody does.
Pretty inspiring stuff stated by Harold Daggett, the third generation ILA union member. He will cripple the U.S. economy. Pretty inspiring stuff. His contract is actually expiring within the next year, I believe. So this agreement is essentially his swan song, his legacy that he needs to leave on. But let's go over the three big asks that they're asking. The first one is a 77% pay increase over 5 years. Currently, top scale dock workers, so anyone that's been working for 6 years or more, are making $39 an hour or $81,000 a year pre-tax. If you actually combine that with the overtime collected, more than half of the 45,000 members within the ILA make over $150,000 a year. About a third of the ILA members, in combination with overtime, make $200,000. These are numbers reported from 2019 and 2020. 59 members out of the 45,000, that's a lot, make $400,000 a year. And the argument is that in order to make this money, they need to work extraordinary hours and sacrifice time with family. No shit. You either sacrifice the time with your family or you sacrifice your work to spend more time with your family. That's how this works. I mean, to even be allowed to even be given that opportunity is a tremendous amount of money. And I get it, they're employees, they're not the owners, but the same rules still apply. The second ask is no more port automation. I think that one makes sense. But when the agreement between two parties can just come to a halt and completely stop most imports coming into the United States, 80% of coffee imports come through the Eastern Gulf Coast, and I'm sure a similar number comes for the other imports coming in. That's not right. I don't think it's right to give a group this much power to just halt the U.S. economy. I mean, Daggett said in his video, cars aren't going to be coming in, lumber's not going to be coming in, steel's not going to be coming in. Businesses are going to come to a halt, and it's going to take about a month. And when we get there, they're going to have to put in place this Taft-Hartley Act. And that might bring union laborers back to work for the meantime, but they're only going to get 1/4 of the production that they've been doing because there's no incentive to work hard. And it makes sense. Look, they're striking right now. I get it. But it doesn't seem right. And maybe it was bad on the U.S. government for not coming up with a solution beforehand. And maybe it's a great time to strike. Kudos to them. The month before the upcoming election, when you have a president who's essentially just a lame duck president at this point and under a Democratic government, which is supposed to be pro-labor. Most recently, Monday night, the USMA offered 50% over 6 years and pledged to keep automation limits in place from the old contract. The alliance said its offer tripled employer contributions to retirement plans and strengthened healthcare options. Daggett himself made over $900,000 last year, $728,000 from the ILA, and $173,000 for being president of his local union. That's a lot of money. And obviously this agreement wasn't accepted because the strike is going on today. So if we were just to crunch these numbers here, just going off of that 77% pay increase, $39 an hour for top scale workers would turn into $69,000 an hour, which mean their base salary is $143,000. Now, if we were going to combine that with the reported overtime from past labor workers, that $150,000, more than half of the union workers, would turn into $265,000 a year. The $200,000 for 1/3 of the union would turn into $353,000. Those 59 members that made over $400,000 in 2020 based off of that $39 an hour base salary would make not $400,000 but $707,692 a year. That is a tremendous amount of money. Listen, you're going to have to sacrifice family time. Everything comes at a sacrifice. Every decision that you make comes at a sacrifice. And the argument is that the amount of hours that they need to sacrifice from being with their family to work is not comparable with the amount of money that they make. And look, the corporations that own these ports, they probably are killing it. I don't disagree with Harold on that. I think they are making billions. I mean, the numbers are out there. You could see the numbers for yourself. I don't know if this is the right solution. I think the approach that both sides are taking right now, I don't think it's right. I don't know what the solution is. I'm only having to contract new coffee that hopefully is going to be coming into the United States pretty soon. But what do all of you think? You can either leave a comment on this podcast, you can DM me through Instagram. And I appreciate all of you guys listening, and I will talk to you again very soon.